Okay, so we did right click and hit inspect. This brings up your developer tools. And the first tab that comes up is your elements tab, and it has all the HTML that you have on your page. And when you rest your mouse pointer over it or click it, you can see the CSS that goes along with that element. Why I wanted to stop here and show this is because this box model is really helpful when things aren't going where they need to be, or you're worried about some different things, elements next to each other. If I rest my mouse pointer over here, you can see that the green is my padding that I just added, the 50 pixels. I can take that on and off by unchecking the CSS here. You can also see, if I click on the div ID content, you can also see the box model here. You can actually see how much padding we have. Notice we had 0 top and bottom margin, 0 auto, and then the auto is going to change because it's automatically going to give us the amount on the left and right of the page here. So I think it's really helpful to understand that you can come in and use these dev tools, and they really are going to be super helpful to just kind of see what's causing issues or turning on and off things and checking things out there. Okay, let's keep going. And let's go ahead and add some more CSS. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add a little more margining there at the top because I want a little space between my border and the top there. So when I save that, you'll see. Okay, let's also go ahead and play around with our paragraph here. So the only paragraph we have is right here. And we can make that a different color if we want to. And the term color refers to the font color. And I have a very specific blue that I want to use because it's the same kind of blue that's in my picture. And now we can see that that is now a different color. And we could also make it maybe a little bit bigger. And so this font size is only going to adjust the paragraph. This one pretty much was inherited by all of the children, but now I'm going to make a more specific one for the paragraph that will override that one. And I'll make it like 130% bigger. Like 1 EM is kind of the default, so 1.3 would make it a little bit bigger there. I don't like how it's wrapping, but we'll do that. Okay, now the HR is kind of a different element. It actually looks pretty good, but maybe I might want to just make it a little bit thicker, and so I could give it a little bit of a height here, and I can also make it a different background color if I wanted to. Maybe I'll make it that same blue, and I think it's probably pretty good. Let's see. Let's give it also a width. Make it, there we go. A little thicker, a little shorter. All right. Now let's look at some of our other selectors that we haven't seen yet. Maybe I want to have all the H1s, all the H2s, and all the Ps are separated with a comma, just meaning I want the styles for all 3 of these things to be centered. Here is another way to center the content of an element is text-align center. So the content is the text that's inside H1, the H2s, and the paragraphs. Go ahead and do that. Okay, we can also center our picture, and you'll see that it's not really centered. It's just kind of staying on the left there. So images can be a little bit different. There's 2 different ways you could do this. A lot of people will just put their image inside of a div. And then they'll call their div something like logos or some logo images or something like that. And then you can, because text-align center content or text-align center will always center the content of something. You could put text-align center on hashtag logos, and it would go ahead and center that. And now we can just make sure that's really working, and it's not. Let me save that with the div. Okay, it is centered, but we see another problem going on here. It's scrolling off to the right when we get a little smaller here. And we are going to be learning about responsive in this class. So it is centered, but when it gets to a small device size, it's hanging over. So I like to give my images a width of 100%, or in fact, let's just do a width of 50% on this one, just so it's a little smaller. And then it will always be centered, and it will grow depending on 50% of whatever its parent is as it gets resized. Okay, the other way you could center an image is, let me go ahead and take off the div. That one seems to be pretty simple though, so that's one option. But sometimes if you're just already in CSS, you don't have a div around image, you can go ahead, I'll just take this out. And again, it's not going to be centered, but we can come in here and we can make it a block level element. Because it was an inline element, meaning if we had a number of different pictures, they'd go side by side as long as they were room until it ran out of room and it would wrap down. We can make it be block, meaning it will take all the space that it can. All the space it can is 50% right now. Then we can use that margin 0 auto, which can center containers or elements that are block level, and that will also center it. So it's just a matter of how much HTML and CSS you want to put in, but sometimes I'm just in the CSS, I'll just go ahead and do something like that. Let's target one of our divs. So we have the div right here, topics. And I want to do a little bit with that. So we could go ahead and remember we already had a ID that we targeted here. So the same thing, hashtag topics. And we might go ahead and change their line height maybe a little. Maybe I think they're too close together. And we could make them maybe 1.5 space or 1.5 times what they normally would be with EM. We could also bring them in a little bit. Maybe we could center them as well, or center the whole div, I guess, not each one. And we could say something like margin, and this will, again, center that div. It was pretty much centered, well, it was coming in because of the width, but I think it's centered a little bit more. If I went ahead and put text line center on all my LIs, I don't think my bullets would line up very well. In fact, let's just try that. If I went in here and targeted all the LIs, list items, and said text align center, it's not really what I want. It's got bullets clear here and then it's centering the text. So it's not really, I want to leave them left aligned. So I'm not really going to center them that way. I can see that they're kind of centered a little bit on the page, and that's okay with me. All right, and then maybe I want to take the bullets off for some reason. We can target each of those classes. Remember, we have a class on each of our unordered lists. And so we can say dot list. Dot is how you would target a class. And we could say list style type of none. And that takes off the bullets. Okay, so I'm thinking it looks pretty good. Again, let's take a look at that dev tool. So maybe I think I need a little bit of space around my image here. I can see from my box model, I can scroll down here. I can see that it's centering, but I don't really have any margining or padding going on. So I could do that. I could give it a little bit of margin, and I think we already had margin to center it, so we can just go ahead and add maybe some space to the top and bottom of that picture. Now maybe I want just as much space above my HR, so I can come into the HR, and I can give it just a margin top if I wanted to. Actually, yeah, top for the HR. Same 50 pixels. And I can kind of see how that works. Oh, that's because I wasn't on my HR. There we go. There. Okay. Anyway, so just take a look at reviewing some of the different ways to center and put some padding and margining and different things like that. You also might want to narrow the width of these because they are starting to look more on the left when we get into a bigger size here. So I might want to come in here and restrict their width down a little bit so that they look nice on any size screen. Anyway, so you play with it and see how you want to go ahead and do that. This should be a little bit similar to your assignment that you will have with that mission statement.